Yep.
I think I've been treated to Linda vacuuming.
Oh, you can already hear her?
No, that's just the RoboVac, man. It's just the RoboVac.
All right, I'm ready to go.
Hang on, I'll shut down the vac. Give me a second. Okay. All good.
What is it saying?
It's mad that I had to rinse the little filter in it. It's like if it feels like it's wet. If it is wet, then please dry it. So nothing.
Vacuum even bitches at
you. Dude, everything in my house is bitchy. It's all bitchy.
News team, assemble!
It's back and bigger than ever. It's the unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carrie, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
All right, we are back. It is the unofficial 40 podcast right here on Soonerscoop.com. Sooner Scoop podcast. Wait a minute, Josh Heupel is being introduced. The glory that is Josh Heupel. The electricity that is Josh Heupel. Your new Tennessee Volunteers head coach on this Wednesday. We welcome you in along with the entire Scoop crew. Josh, Eddie, Bob, gentlemen, how are we doing today?
Shocked.
You just didn't think it could possibly happen?
I mean, I didn't think Danny White was that stupid, to be honest with you.
Wow, coming in with the heat.
I don't think it's gonna go well, and I don't think that I'm in the minority on this.
Do you think it was going to go well for anybody though? They couldn't get anybody to take that job. I saw the Clemson site, Larry Williams, saying that Tony Elliott turned him down last night.
Sure.
Oh, did not know that.
Yeah, and it's a unique circumstance too, because you got to wonder like what's headed down the track as far as an NCAA investigation into everything that's going on in Knoxville. And then all the obvious, like, I think that, I don't know, maybe it's because we're so close to it. I think that we feel like, or at least from what I'm looking at, it's a hire that isn't as good because I know how it ended here with Heupel and then kind of kept an eye on him at Central Florida. And to say that he's improved the program, and I know that that's a little unfair considering what he took over for Scott Frost, but like, I don't think that Central Florida was necessarily headed in the right direction as a program. And like, I don't want to make this into I'm just shitting on Josh Heupel for an hour and a half either, because, you know, and we'll get into it, but like the way that everything ended here, it's really kind of sad how his relationship with Oklahoma and everything has disintegrated over the last 6-7 years. And, you know, I just remember when Tram was trying to write that article on the 20 or the 2000 national championship team, like Heupel basically gave him a no comment because he won't say shit about OU. So I don't know. It's weird. I hope it works out, though. I'll say that. That's where I'll end it. I promise I'll stop shitting on the hire.
I think
go ahead, Bob.
The problem is the assumption that because he was at OU and at Central Florida, he gets you into Texas and Florida in recruiting. And I think that seems to be the biggest misnomer that's really running wild throughout this morning, is that, this is going to open the doors for Tennessee in those states. And just based on what me and Josh know and what we've seen, what Heupel's track record is, that's just not necessarily going to be the case.
In honor of Larry King's passing, I'm going to ask my question this way. Josh McQuistion, Central Florida was 6-4 last year.
Yeah, is that all the lead-in I get there, Larry? I mean, I like that you're just kind of leaving it there for me to go. It's really sad that we are not doing this in real time, and everybody can enjoy the Josh Heupel Wikipedia page I'm currently looking at.
Oh boy!
But
what have they done?
Yeah, some editors have gotten a hold of it. There is a picture of a man that is absolutely not Josh Heupel in Tennessee gear and some sunglasses. I have linked it to you all in our little group chat. It is.
Is it Batman?
It's not a good look.
Oh my God!
Yeah, it's not good.
You gotta screen cap that one.
Yeah,
Eddie.
Yeah, that's a must. But what took me to his Wikipedia page is I was trying to make sure that I really remembered the exact time frame he was at Oklahoma. And as you look through those classes, it's not like Oklahoma was killing it recruiting quarterbacks, particularly in the state of Texas, which really was all Josh was doing at that point in time. I mean, you go back, that was his initial role. He took over as quarterbacks coach in 2006 and continued through that, and grew into offensive coordinator as well. But he was the quarterbacks coach throughout that. Who did they land in that period of time that excites you as a quarterback recruit? I mean, some kid named Bradford from Oklahoma City, but that was largely Chuck Long before he left.
Well, they missed out on Max Brown back in the day. And he didn't exactly go on to a stellar career or anything, but he was their first choice, and then he went to USC, and then they got and then Justice Hansen was the guy, right, after that? Or am I...
You're
Hansen, no, Hansen was like 14.
Okay.
Yeah. And then,
so it would have been Trevor Knight. Trevor Knight was plan B.
With Gunnar Keel, 2012. And then Max Brown and Cody Thomas is 2013. And then Justice Hansen.
Cody Thomas, yeah.
Yep.
And then Blake Bell is in there.
But yeah,
too.
I mean, Bob's just dead on. There's nothing about his track record that says he's going to open up Texas for Tennessee. I don't know. Now, could he help a little? Sure, I guess. But I mean, I don't think any of us ever sat back and thought, man, Josh Heupel is a dynamic recruiter. Like, it's not a knock on him. That's just not the strength of where he comes from. I mean, look at some of his Texas offers. Jacob Karam from Friendswood, Drew Allen, who he did get. He recruited Cam Newton out of Blinn when after he had left Florida. Right. Connor Wood, Jamal Turner, Trevor Knight, and some other guys you guys have talked about. But there's almost no track record of him landing elite quarterbacks in Texas. In fact, there's absolutely none. So I don't know how you get this idea that he's going to suddenly figure it out.
I will say this, you can talk all day about, and I'm not, God, I feel like I'm always the guy defending people. You could talk all day about, whether you're getting a 5-star in or not, but those quarterbacks that he had at UCF, that Gabriel kid has got a cannon for an arm. Like, he's really good. And, I mean, Mackenzie Milton was, I know he was there before Heupel, I think. But what he did with him before he got hurt, I mean, he was a Heisman type guy. So, I mean, I'm saying he's got a decent track record as a developer of quarterbacks, which I'm sure Texas would love to have his track record as a developer of quarterbacks.
I think they'll be fine with
that's fair.
Now.
I'm sorry, Josh, you said that's fair, and Eddie, I couldn't understand what you said.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that's fair. I think that Texas fans are probably pretty pleased with what they got in a quarterback developer as far as Sark goes here now with this new hire.
Sure.
I will say, though, as far as developing, and like I will be the first one to put my hand up and say that Sam Bradford loves Josh Heupel. He credits him with a ton of what he turned into.
I was going to ask you about that
because of Josh Heupel. So I'm not going to sit here and act like he can't coach the position, because that's not only is it by fact not true, but I just know that personally. He loves the guy. He will go to bat for him anytime, and owes a lot to what he made in his career because of what Josh Heupel taught him in Norman. I just I don't know. Maybe I'm looking at it too in depth right now, and we've talked about this, guys, but it's like the fit as far as Josh Heupel's personality and the rabid fan base that is Tennessee and what they expect and how frustrated they are. I don't know. I hope it works out, but if I had to bet one way or the other, I think it's going to fail. And hell, they might have been able to put anybody at Tennessee right now, and it would still fail, considering what they're about to face from the NCAA and everything, and all the fallout is basically taking over a program that has been depleted of talent.
Eddie, do you remember when you and I went to Justice Hansen's house to do like that one final interview before he enrolled?
Yeah, the day that I basically figured out that I'm going to make a movie about Justice Hansen because I have so much video of him.
We went and interviewed him at his house, and I think it was even like a 2-camera setup and everything. We did it up for the 30 for 30 that one day will never happen. But here's the one thing, the most damaging story I have about Josh Heupel came from that day. Do you know where I'm going with this, Eddie?
Yes, I know exactly where you're going.
So
and it's a fact. It's a fact.
So we get finished with the interview, and we're just talking to Justice. I mean, shit, he was basically part of the staff. I mean, he was family. Like we talked to him so much. We saw so many of his games. I mean, he was comfortable talking to us. And so we're outside, we're just shooting the bull, and we're getting ready to leave. And Justice just asked me straight out. He says, hey, does Josh Heupel kind of warm up to you, or does he become more approachable? And I was like, oh, shit. You've been committed for a year, and you're getting ready to enroll. You're already signed, and you're telling me that you really don't know your quarterback's coach as a person at all, and that he's a little bit awkward to deal with. That was so bad. I was just like, my God, how does that happen? But it happened.
Super. He is not the most, and obviously things could have changed, and when he got fired, hell, it could have been a look in the mirror moment for Josh. But he's just a very different type of person. And some coaches are like that, but I don't know. Maybe that's exactly what Tennessee needs. Maybe they needed to step out of the box.
Maybe they need a robot.
Danny White just doesn't. Maybe Danny White believes in what he's produced here over the last 3 years, but it's a very awkward fit, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, that first press conference with the Tennessee media, I don't know how he's going to fit in. I don't know how he's going to gel. I don't know how the media is going to treat him. Do they have some kid gloves because of the situation, or are they going to be as demanding as they've been about whoever's been the head coach there the last 15, 20 years and still believing this is the 90s and that they're still a top 15, top 10 program?
Sadly, I don't think that the expectations for maybe one of the most unrealistic fan bases in the country is going to change any. And that's the other thing. It's if they do face violations or any type of sanctions from the NCAA, how quick can you expect a quote unquote turnaround? We went across it this morning. They have finished inside the top 21. The lowest they've finished is 21st in the Rivals recruiting team rankings over the last decade. You know how many times they finished in the final AP top 20 in the last decade?
Zero.
Yeah. So recruiting, they've had plenty of talent out there. It's kind of like the Texas thing. Somebody kind of said they're a lot like Nebraska, which in reality they're not. I mean, they it's not even close. They have a recruiting grounds that they can go to. Nebraska doesn't have that. There's no explanation why Tennessee playing in the SEC East, which, I'll credit the last 5-6 years, it's been the SEC West that everybody talks about. But it's not necessarily been just murderer's row out there.
It's very similar to what Alabama was going through before they got Saban.
So Josh Heupel equals Saban?
No, I didn't say that. I mean, Josh Heupel could very well be, Mike Shula. I mean, just another coach that goes through there before they figure it out. And I would say that that's more likely to be the case than it is that he's Nick Saban. But I don't know. I don't even know where I was going with that.
Well, if we know anything about hires here as of late, he damn sure better be able to go hire whoever he wants, and he better make some good decisions as far as who he's going to put around him. Because if we've learned anything here over the last few years, and particularly if you want to look at what Riley even did, you have to have really good assistants.
I think with Heupel, as an OU fan, you have to be able to separate the player from the coach. I mean, the 2014 season was abysmal. They got to the point where they could not throw the ball and they could not run the ball. And it just slowly, it was that season, if the offense was like a faucet, it just slowly kept turning off as the season went along. They lost all momentum, and then it culminated in that awful Russell Athletic Bowl that thank God none of you had to go to.
I was there.
Were you there? Yeah, well,
I was there.
I've hated you probably because you worked for a competing site.
He was glad you were there, Bob.
I wanted to come
Welcome,
cough
dickhead.
on you. Yeah. No, but I mean, look, 2013 was a pretty good year. We've talked about this before. I mean, it ended up with the Alabama win that everybody talked about, the win at Notre Dame, and that win in Stillwater that year when Blake Bell threw the touchdown to Jalen Saunders. There was some good football that Josh Heupel coached, but it never seemed to be consistent. It never seemed to be Kevin Wilson. I mean, it wasn't that offense that was scoring 50 points a game and leading the country and all these things. It had fallen down. And Bob Stoops I remember talking to him that preseason about bringing in Lincoln. He said, "Look, I looked at the total offensive stats, and every year Lincoln Riley was in the top 15. He said, I wanted to get back to being that type of a team. And they weren't that type of team. And I think part of that was, having Landry Jones as a quarterback, and it was just a okay offense for 4 years. And, Heupel took that over in 2010 when they, I think the Fiesta Bowl against UConn was his first time calling plays. But it was just kind of meh. I mean, there was nothing spectacular about Josh Heupel as an offensive coordinator other than they could run the ball, they could throw the ball, but they didn't do it better than anybody else.
That's always been, what is his, it feels like he, even since OU, when it seemed like, he's hit rock bottom, this is a problem, that everybody is down on him. Well, he finds another job, I believe it was at Utah State, and then almost immediately was back, I believe, at Missouri, if I'm remembering all that right.
No, he signed Jordan Love, the guy that the Packers took that's pissing off Aaron Rodgers. He was the only scholarship offer for Jordan Love coming out of high school.
Which, and that's part of, you said it earlier, and you're right. I think Josh can identify talent. I don't think that's the problem. I don't think he is the guy that can go, I don't think he goes and wins Spencer Rattler. I don't think he
wasn't
that.
Bringing. He would have brought Baker Mayfield in here, but he would have brought Kyler Murray and Jalen Saunders and Caleb Williams. Yeah, he wouldn't have been able. He certainly wouldn't. He certainly wouldn't have been able to lose a Brock Vandagriff and then go and sign an even better quarterback. That's just not how he's built.
Yeah, guys, if we remember, he didn't get Kyler Murray. That was one of those ones where OU was kind of battling, trying to be involved in that. And, don't get me wrong, I don't think a lot of people are going to land Kyler Murray, so that's not really one I put on him. But, again, it's just one of these things where his ability to identify and develop, I don't think anybody can argue with. But is he going to go land the elite guys in other positions? That's what he's going to have to find a way to do, or hire a staff that can do it for him.
I really shouldn't have taken that bite of pizza. I was hoping
that's
somebody else
not
jump in.
Pizza that you're eating, by the way. That's like bread and some cheese filled into a yogurt cup.
It's a whole wheat tortilla that makes a fantastic pizza crust when you put it in the oven.
That is offensive.
It's
cold. You washing it down with root beer?
Don't get me started on the root beer. Where did this root beer thing come from?
One of the local Channel 5 guys came out with a list of stuff he should stop producing or making or whatever, and root beer was on there. I was like, yeah, you know what? This guy's right.
Root beer is one of my favorite things on this earth. I loved growing up going to A&W, and they would bring out this gallon of root beer in a glass jug, and you would take it home, and you would put it in the refrigerator. It was so cold. It was fantastic. I still love A&W root beer to this day. You've never had a root beer float?
I don't know if I've ever spent money at A&W root beer.
Hand up. Yep. No, never been.
Well, they kind of disappeared.
Can confirm.
I said when I was little, by the way.
I
don't even know if they exist anymore.
When I was a kid, I liked Coit's in Oklahoma City. I remember liking their root beer.
Coit's is just like A&W. It's really good,
too. But as I got older, I don't know, like it was like one day I just didn't like it anymore. And I still to this day don't like root beer. Now, a cream soda, I'll do that any day of the week, and I have opinions on all kinds of cream sodas. But I've got zero interest in root beer.
Yeah, I can't support your cream soda addiction.
Little breaking news out of the transfer portal. Tate Martell has entered, if anybody's interested in that.
What's he entered as?
What?
Yeah.
Looks like he is transferring finally from Miami, because remember, he just opted out of 2020.
Yes. But is he a quarterback? Is he a receiver?
I don't know. I think it'll be as an influencer. I don't know if it'll be as a certain
So anyway, yeah, I was curious where that all started because it was offensive to me. But no, I mean, Eddie, low-calorie food, healthy living, it's not so bad.
I'm not going to hate you for it, but I am going to give you shit.
I mean, I'll eat a pizza on my cheat day, but this is what I get right now, and I love pizza.
Damn sure better.
No, because chicken and bacon chalupas are back at Taco Bell, so that's going to be my cheat day, the next cheat day. It's not the chicken bacon ranch chalupa, which was the best chalupa of all time, which is so weird because I'm so not a Taco Bell guy. They pull me in with the chalupa.
This is new. I can't believe of all the cheats you could have, Taco Bell is what you want to be your cheat day. That's amazing.
Just for the chicken and bacon chalupa, though.
Okay. Hey,
Otherwise, I'm going like Vans or getting Sandro's pizza, meatball sub, something like that.
See, that all feels worthy. That all feels like a sound decision for a cheat day.
I talked to Mike Stoops last night.
Humble brag.
No, I don't even want to bring it up, but because I know it's just like reporting that thing about Texas, which I didn't get from him. Has that been since the last pod? Has that come out? I guess that would have had to come out Friday.
So yeah. I think that was Friday night. So no, we haven't really talked about it. I mean, I'll say it. Texas f***ed him over. He got f***ed.
Yep.
Yeah, he really did.
I don't even know. You can be mad at Mike Stoops all you want. There's a way you do stuff and there's a way you don't do stuff, and that was just. I mean, and guys, this is exactly what we talk about with Texas. This is the shit that has nothing to do with football that hurts that program over and over again.
Yeah, but at the same time, I do agree with people that say that Del Conte should take the blame for not reading the room on that. I mean, he knows his donors. He had to know, and maybe he just didn't want to tell Sarkisian no on his first selection, but he had to know that was going to be a tough hire. I mean, it basically, you could tell how it worked. I mean, like I said, Mike, I hadn't talked to Mike about how it went down. I did a little bit last night, but before I reported all that stuff, I hadn't talked to him. I just talked to people close to him, and it's obvious from talking to people that he got screwed over, but it was obvious, even if I didn't know what I knew, that as soon as it came out, somebody put the kibosh on it. It was just too obvious. It was so obvious that some donor, probably one that was paying, Tom Herman's buyout, said, I didn't pay all this money so you could bring in that guy.
Here's what was confusing to me is that he was picked by Sarkisian the Friday before, and then we went a whole week of nothing. So did they just keep it under wraps for that entire week? And then the Thursday night, when that report came out from AL.com, like at 11 o'clock at night, was that the first time that those Texas donors really knew that Mike Stoops was the choice?
I think so. Yeah. And that would signal that Del Conte was hiding that from donors. Like he knew it wasn't smart to put it out there. Like he was hoping to kind of, wrangle that thing through under the table almost. That's my guess. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah. Like I said, it was just because Thursday night there were multiple reports like it's going to be Mike Stoops. Yep. And then Friday morning you wake up and I think it was Brian Davis from the Statesman was like, we've been told that or Sarkisian says this is not happening. I mean, it happened fast, whatever it was, however exactly it played out.
Yeah. There's like no source says it. Sarkeesian tells me Mike Stoops is not the guy. Like,
which tells you someone told him, "Hey, get out there and get in front of this thing." Like it's got to be you. It can't be sources battling in the newspapers.
But the bad thing about it is, I did confirm that. I mean, it is absolutely true that Mike Stoops turned down the North Texas defensive coordinator job with Seth Luttrell because he had that Texas job. So it screwed him out of that. It screwed him out of SMU because I know Pete Thamel reported it this morning, but because I think Sonny Dykes was kind of messing around with the Tennessee job too, and he had already agreed to hire Jim Leavitt from where is he at FAU, I think. So he'd already made plans and told Jim Leavitt he had the job before he found out that Mike no longer had the Texas job too.
It's crazy how it all trickles down.
I do think that I will say this, from what I talked to Mike about last night, he's not headed back to Alabama, I don't think. I think he's got something lined up. I don't know what it is, and he wouldn't tell me because he basically said I ain't saying shit till I sign a contract this time.
I'd have a hard time keeping my mouth shut if I was him. I'd go full throttle after Texas. That's probably why I'd be unemployable as a college football head coach, and that doesn't even begin to talk about the type of cheating we'd be doing.
Look, there's no doubt, talking to him, he's done a lot of soul searching. He's done, he understands that he needed a rehab. He understands that, the things that he was doing were not working, and I think he kind of understands, he needed to change his approach and the way that he deals with players. And, how he teaches players and how he gets players to do what he's telling them to do. I mean, that was always his biggest problem, is he would just kind of lose people. And people weren't really listening to him. They would tune him out because you can only yell at somebody so much before they just tune you out.
Sure.
Well, and that's pretty funny because there were some, that kind of made it sound like, oh no, that's just this generation's just too soft and they can't get, like Mike recognized it. I don't know why some couldn't. People don't forget how to coach. Like, that's an old adage, but it's right. Like, Mike's a smart guy. He knows football. That was not the problem. There was some disconnect from his message to what was getting there, and we said it on the pod for a long time there, guys. It wasn't that Mike just became stupid. Mike just, for whatever reason, it wouldn't connect, and you go and work around that staff at Alabama, I'm sure he picked up a few tricks.
Yeah, and I don't want to get too psychological about it, but I think there's something to be said about, him getting fired at his job at Arizona and maybe what that did to him. Like, just send him into bizarro mode a little bit.
Yeah.
Just
Instead
not being
of having
able to
a little
let
time
that go.
Have a little time to kind of process it, just immediately jumping back in at Oklahoma.
Go ahead,
I just
Bob.
think you can't use the same approach for every player, and I think that's what he really did. Because you still see guys like Obo and Zach Sanchez and people like that stick up for Mike because they were able
to
react in a positive way.
Yeah.
But if you can't handle that, then as a coach, you've got to find another way to connect, and that seemed to be the missing link the entire time.
It's what happened to me in 7th grade math. I mean, I get it. I was a math whiz, and then once we had algebra, I got a bad teacher, and she could only teach me one way. And I was a scourge of math teachers from that point on. So it happens. You gotta have more than one way to do it.
Somehow, I don't think your dad is that worried about your math now after what you've turned out to be.
Yeah, my dad has a lot of reason to be worried about me. My math is probably not the top of the list.
So, yeah, I mean, I think Mike's going to get a job. I think it's, his rehab is well underway. I think and here's one thing that, brought up, talking to me. He was just talking to me just about, because you guys saw this yesterday when Alabama, all their measurements were being shown at the Reese's Senior Bowl, and everybody was just like, okay, look at that hand size. Okay, look at that wingspan. Like, okay, look at that weight. Look at that. Like, their guys are just different from everybody else. And Saban specifically, like, we know how it works. They can recruit whoever they want. But they're also smart enough to know exactly who they should and shouldn't be recruiting. It's because they take a lot of a lot of study goes into, guys and measurables. Like, I would imagine when a kid comes to visit them, they're doing like, the underwear Olympics, like doing measurements, doing all this stuff. Like, they treat it just like there's a reason the NFL puts you through that crap, because that stuff matters to them, because they know if you have measurables, you eliminate some of the variables of whether you can be successful or not. And, I mean, Alabama lives and dies by that. Saban lives and dies by that. And, like, that's the stuff that Heupel's going to be combating when he's at Tennessee. Like you guys said, they have recruited really well. But when you go, Josh, you know this, when you go from a group of 5 school to a Power 5, and not just a Power 5, but an SEC Power 5 school, you don't realize the type of athlete you have to be recruiting to win a conference like that.
Guys, I cover Oklahoma recruiting. I see some of the best players in the country every year that are going to Oklahoma. I remember a couple years ago being at the Under Armour All-American game, the check-in. I'm sitting there in the lobby, and the whole media just kind of sits in one room, and you wait for players to come in from their flights from the airport, and you're just kind of waiting to do the interviews you need to do. And, it's just a group of us sitting there talking. And this kid walks in, and I'm like, God, dog, who's that guy? And I'm thinking he's like an outside linebacker or something. He's a corner committed to Alabama, and you're like, holy crap. Like, I mean, Alabama guys, when they walk in the room, they look different. They're different types of guys, and that's why these people get in these conversations like, oh, there was somebody on the board today that was kind of mocking OU fans for being, like, oh, you guys are still into the height, weight, speed thing. That won't hurt Ronnie Perkins, blah, blah. It does. It matters. Like, it's not something you can just ignore, because if all things are equal, I want the height, weight, speed guy. Now, I get that I don't want the height, weight, speed guy that can't catch a cold or can't tackle anybody. You have to have football skill, I understand. But this idea that general managers and all these, the elite football teams, they all look a certain way, that's not an accident. That's not some anomaly that just happened. They are looking for specific traits, and one of those traits is size and speed.
Which is what Grinch is trying to do with the secondary, and what he's doing a good job at procuring, kind of. I mean, you look at what they're. Honestly, I need to do a story on it where we kind of compare the first 3, his first 2 years and what the height weight looks like compared to what the 2 years prior to him look like. I mean, Jordan Mukes, now they go off of the Jayden Rowe kid from Tulsa Union that's listed at 6'3", like 185. I mean, there is a very clear message and idea of what they're trying to be in that secondary. And you know what, Josh, what's interesting is you and I probably are guilty of this, but like when you see a Jordan Mukes and you see a kid like that and he's bigger than most people that play his position in high school, you kind of immediately are like, I wonder if he can really play this position in college. Like your first instinct is to be skeptical when you see a guy that is way bigger than everybody. Like,
it's the perfect example is the kid we saw. What was the kid from the East Coast that came here, tried to play outside linebacker, never could.
Oh, Ricky DeBerry?
Ricky DeBerry.
Yeah.
Kerry, you're absolutely right. I mean, there is, guys, another good example is a couple years ago, the guy that played Arkansas, Dan Skipper. He was great on tape. Yeah. Dan Skipper was 6'10". I mean, there's big offensive linemen, and there's like, oh my God. I mean, he was 330 and looked like a power forward. I mean, like, he was that tall and long. But, that's kind of, there were people, and I thought OU should have recruited Dan Skipper, but I think there were people that were concerned that he was so far outside of the norm, almost in the same direction of like, well, we're not going to recruit a 6-foot offensive lineman either. Like, there's a scope you're looking for, a spectrum you want to fit within, and if you don't, that makes life harder. And it's, again, I think things that fans don't think about sometimes. A coach has to take inventory. What did we recruit? Well, we recruited this 6-foot guy. We recruited this 6'9" guy. No, we landed 6'6". We landed 6'7". We recruited the same guy that Clemson, Alabama, and Ohio State offered. You can defend those decisions. When you recruit the guy that nobody else recruits and you say, you kind of stand on the table and say, Lincoln Riley or whoever your head coach is, I want this guy. You're going to have to answer for that. You're going to have to stand behind that. And if you're right, great. But the odds are you're going to be wrong, because if you're right and everybody else is wrong, then you're a genius. But again, the odds are everybody else isn't wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of one of those things. You just have to fight your own instincts to say, okay, this is actually what you're looking for. Not it's not an anomaly that you have to worry about. Like, if you find that, embrace that. Like, you need, and I think that's just normal that people don't embrace it when you see a guy like a Jordan Mukes or. I mean, there's some guys. I mean, like Adrian Peterson, just a freak. I mean, there's no question. You take him no matter what. I mean, like, I remember the first time I saw Reuben Foster at 5-star, and I was like, holy shit. Like, I didn't know humans like that even existed. And who was it, the Black Shark kid from Duncanville that went to Alabama?
Yeah. Oh, Kendrick. Yeah. Kendrick Black Shark. Yeah.
I mean, he's that same type of build where you're just like, holy
Guys, I've seen Army and Under Armour All-Americans that as seniors didn't look nearly as good as he looked as a freshman. Like, I mean, that's how freakish he was from, like, birth. But at the same time, Kerry, you're exactly right. Because, guys, I can remember us all standing there on that sideline at that Rivals camp when we first saw him, and it was like, well, he's going to turn into a defensive end. Like, you just, you're like, there's no way that's going to last.
Talking about Reuben Foster.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about Black Shark.
No, Black Shark, okay.
But Foster, same sort of idea. But yeah, you're right. But at the same time, Kerry, it's one of those things you love about going for the height, weight, speed guys. Well, if Jordan Mukes doesn't work out at safety, he's big enough. You can slide him down to Will and give him a try. Now, it may not work, but at least that option exists. Like, if you had signed, I don't know, let's say Trey Norwood. You can't slide Trey Norwood down to Will if it doesn't work out at safety. That you're just eating that scholarship. It's gone. But at least with Mukes, you can say, well, okay, we got a backup plan. We got something else we could do here. So it's always good to kind of have that avenue that you can go down. But yeah, I mean, guys, it's like I said, it's not coincidence that you look at the NFL draft and height, weight, speed is usually what people are what they're drafting. It's not just recruiting. It exists at the top level of football as well.
Okay, it's come that time again for us to tell you about our great friends at Dead Soxy, deadsoxy.com, the patented no-slip silicone beads and the welt. They keep those socks from slipping down on you, and we just love them. I tell you guys all the time about how much I wear the no-show socks, even with tennis shoes. It just makes you feel like your feet are on a cloud and just makes you feel lighter. They really do. Just great fabric, Eddie. Slips right on and washes well, but some of the highest quality socks I've ever had. I don't know if you've been in this luxury sock market. I don't know if you've been in this game before.
Gary, I was never in the sock game before I got with Dead Soxy, and you know what I've noticed? My feet no longer sweat. That's what I think my biggest quality of life change has been over the past 3-4 months, and it's probably the best part is they just don't sweat, and I'm ready for golf season. So of course I'm ready to slip on the no-show socks. It's going to be perfect. The no-slip silicone beads are perfect. 30% promo code with Sooner Scoop. Just use the keyword Boomer.
There goes Ramondre Stevenson running down the field. He could probably use some no-shows. His socks are showing. Yeah, and I think it's just kind of one of those things, too, Eddie. I mean, a lot of people don't leave the house very much. I know you do because you're just a walking COVID. But, when you do leave the house, it's kind of cool to put on some nice socks and feel good about yourself when you're out running around, running to errands. And it just makes it a little bit of joy in an otherwise pandemic-filled world. So,
Put it this way. Soon we're all going to be vaccinated if you choose. And everybody's going to be outside, and you're going to need them because the weather's going to be nice as well.
Oh, that'll be so nice. Go to deadsoxy.com. That's DEADSOXY.com. Use your promo code BOOMER, and you'll get 30% off the best dress socks that you've ever put on. Just like me and Eddie. Remember, stay soxy. All right, well, with the transfer portal, I know everyone was kind of wringing their hands early, thinking, oh, God, are we ever going to get anybody of significance here? And now, all of a sudden, it's just been a boon for Lincoln Riley and the OU program because you start off, you get your backup quarterback, your arm, your camp arm. I mean, you almost refer to this guy as, I know That's insulting. To the guy's name I can't even remember now.
Micah Bowens.
Micah Bowens. But he's a capable guy. That's what you needed. And I don't even mind that they had to give up a scholarship to secure a guy like that, because it really does help Spencer Rattler, and it allows Caleb Williams to kind of develop. The thing that I think, and we've talked about it a lot, you just need a guy in practice to run, to take snaps and take throws off of Spencer Rattler's arm, because otherwise, if you don't have enough quarterbacks, he's going to get worn down by the end of the year. He just is. But let's talk about Bowens first. But Bishop Gorman guy, went to Penn State, and I mean, what kind of go over what we know about him, guys? Bob, we can start with you.
Very, very confident guy. When I had that interview Thursday, someone who definitely has a lot of faith in his ability, and just said, I understand Spencer Rattler's there. I understand they just picked up Caleb Williams. I'm just not scared to compete. I'm going to go up against the best. And, this situation doesn't intimidate me whatsoever. Now, I don't know if that's going to mean anything in the long run, or if this is really just his chance to learn what he can from Lincoln Riley for a couple of years and then try to apply it later. But a very ultra confident kid for, when you're transferring after 1 year and it didn't work out, you maybe feel like you may have been humbled a bit. He still seemed as eager as perhaps he was when he was back in high school. Can he just be plug and replace Chandler Morris? I don't know. I mean, we'll have to see about that, but you understand what they are willing to take the chance on, and you understand why he's willing to make that chance. I mean, he was talking about how to go from Bishop Gorman or Vegas to Penn State, you had to do a 5-hour flight and then another connect.
I guess we lost Bob.
Moral of the story is people don't realize how just out there state college is. It's in the middle of goddamn nowhere.
To me, it's just it's something that you hope to get. You got it, and that's that's kind of the bonus baby of the portal. But obviously the biggest news so far is Keyshawn Lawrence, and you get a safety
and or Wanya Morris,
and Wanya Morris too, yeah. But
of this week, yeah, Bob is back with us. But let's I don't know, Josh, you want to start there with Keyshawn Lawrence? I mean, a guy that had a relationship with Roy Manning in Oklahoma in the past, has been in on a visit. But obviously, from what we know, that I would assume that paid off, having that relationship.
Yeah, I mean, and guys, this was a lot like Wanya Morris. Like almost immediately, or not even immediately, before he even got into the portal, you were hearing, boy, if he goes in and everybody thinks he's gonna, it sure sounds like he's going to Oklahoma. And you're like, what? Okay, like. With Morris, I was super skeptical. I was like, I don't know. Like, that doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound like anything Oklahoma usually does. Like, they're going to check all their boxes and kind of run through things. But with Lawrence, you're like, well, okay. I mean, it happened once. I don't know why it wouldn't happen again. And sure as the world. I mean, I think he was in the portal for 2 or 3 days, something like that, before he announced. I mean, it was
Friday afternoon.
Friday to Monday. Yeah.
Announced.
So, there just wasn't much time and lapse in there. So, as far as a player, though, I mean, you talk about 2 safeties, and I know everybody's so excited about Justin Harrington, and we've certainly been a part of that kind of buzz around him. But you talk about 2 guys that complement each other nicely. Harrington and Lawrence are a very, very nice complementary pair. Harrington is a natural free, wants to play deep, all that sort of stuff. Lawrence can play some nickel. He could play safety. He's really good near the line of scrimmage. He wants to come up and play run. He's a guy, big high school running back background, so he's kind of used to being around the line of scrimmage, playing in traffic, doing some of those things. So you talk about, like I said, a free and a strong that make a lot of sense, that are going to come in and immediately provide competition for Turner, Yell, and Fields. That those 2 are that's where they're going to be seen. I'd be shocked if that's not the roles they're competing in, with Lawrence kind of trying to take Turner Yell's spot and Harrington obviously pushing Fields. So there's it's one of those deals where I get it as an OU fan. You start looking at that safety room, and all of a sudden it looks a lot different, where you've got a couple of NFL level talents, but can they take the job from guys who are far more experienced? And guys, we all know that's something Alex Grinch puts a lot of stock in. I mean, especially at that position, he wants guys he knows and he can trust. Can Harrington and Lawrence bridge that gap? Can they get over that divide?
Yeah,
I was just going to say real quick, it's an unfair question, but can they? Like on January 27th, would you project those guys to win those jobs?
Day one, I would bet money day one, Turner, Yell, and Fields are your starters.
No,
and that's going to piss everybody off. And yeah, exactly. Now, does OU have an unexpected loss somewhere in there? Because we know that's been the history for 20 years. As soon as OU loses a game, all the changes that seemed kind of obvious all of a sudden become possible.
Fields actually had a decent year. He just can't catch a football. That's his biggest problem, and people hate him for it.
Yeah. He didn't have a bad year. He didn't. I would say of the two, Turner Yell was the more disappointing to me. I really thought this year could be a kind of, not like a breakout like he was going to be an All-American or anything, but I thought he had a chance to be an All-Big 12 kind of guy, and that just never happened. It just never really came together for him.
But he was silent in a good way, which, you didn't see people running behind him a lot. He just wasn't that guy that came up and made big plays at the line of scrimmage or, sniffed out a run play or this or that, which you would expect him to do at his position every once in a while.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's his game. He's a big play kind of guy. Like, he's not I don't know how great his value is if he's not doing things that are going to impact the game one way or the other. I mean, I always liked him in high school because he was so aggressive. And you knew there was going to be some blowback from that. There would be bad moments, but you thought, well, okay, he'll create some fumbles, maybe some interceptions. He'll get in some passing lanes, do some tackles for loss, whatever. He was going to make positive plays as well, but in the end, he just kind of is out there. And that's Pat Fields. I'm fine if you don't ever notice Pat Fields. I think that is the way you want his game to go and with where he is on the field. Because if you don't see him, they're not hitting you big deep. They're not working you over the middle. There's a lot of good things happening if Pat Fields is not on your TV screen.
I just wanted to circle back with Lawrence is why I felt confident that Reggie Grimes connection that you knew was there. And sometimes as much as those coaches have to wait, as Alex Grinch and Roy Manning, Lincoln Riley had to wait till Lawrence hit the portal, he had to be talking with Grimes and Woody Washington and getting a real feel of what's going on. And then I'm sure you guys saw yesterday what Grimes' father posted on Twitter was that childhood photo of Reggie and Keyshawn being, teammates way back in the day. And it's just when you've got that built-in connection, then you add in the fact that he'd been to OU, so it's not like he's coming here sight unseen and not knowing what to expect. It just made a lot of sense that they're passing on Darian Rakestraw. They're passing on every other guy in the secondary because they know full well that once Lawrence hit, they were going to attack and they were going to get him.
Now, you mentioned, Bob, biggest news of the week so far, but there's another Tennessee guy, Josh, that you posted about last night on the board that things look good for OU to reel in yet another.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy. I mean, at some point, is Oklahoma diminishing themselves by bringing in too much Tennessee? There's a line where okay, we're going to start poisoning the well if we're not careful. But no, running back Eric Gray is a guy that visited both Texas and Oklahoma over the weekend. I was told as recently as probably last Thursday that Oklahoma was not sure if he was a take for them. They were still looking over some things, trying to make some decisions. And I think it was really coming down to, is this guy good enough for us to potentially risk losing out on a guy that might jump in the portal later on? So I think they kind of went through that, and they just decided they need help in that running back room. And Eric Gray is a all-purpose back kind of guy, really good receiver out of the backfield. They can use him a lot of ways. So he makes some sense for OU. He really does. Kind of a TJ Pledger type of player. I think he's a little more explosive than Pledger. But, that kind of role is what I would see for him. But, last night I was told that he had informed the Texas staff that it was going to be Oklahoma, and that's really the two schools that it had come down to. Now, with his situation, he's not quite as far down the line as like Morris and Lawrence are. Does he listen to Josh Heupel? Does Josh Heupel reach out to him? You know, like you wonder a little bit about that, and if that could be an issue. But I mean, you just don't know. I mean, that's something I can only go off what I know right now, and what I know is he told sources at Texas that it was going to be Oklahoma. So we'll see when and if he announces it publicly, and then we can all kind of move forward from there.
Yeah, I will say the one thing about, a Josh Heupel offense is not like he's known for any running backs in particular. And there is a lot of empty stuff, a lot of receiver stuff, a lot of one-back stuff in that Bryles system that he runs. So I don't know.
I just think of at Texas Tech when Cody Thomas threw three interceptions and they just gave the P Ryan the entire second half. You got to lean on your running back.
Oh, I just mean Josh
to not run the ball against those Tech teams.
Yeah, I just meant him at UCF and kind of what he's built out there. Like you think about quarterbacks, but you don't really think about running backs in terms of what, Eric Gray might look for if, with Josh Heupel's offense, if he does try and talk him into staying. I don't know that he has a big selling point on why a running back should stay is what I'm saying. So, well, okay, so, that seems like, that has to be, like, it for the portal, right? Or
Big Cat's still out there.
Oh, Big Cat. Oh, God.
Eric Gilbert's still out there.
Eric Gilbert.
And I don't think Gilbert's going to happen, but I don't think the door has been completely shut, so you got to at least acknowledge that it exists. With Big Cat, though, I don't know. It feels like if he was really going to go to Oklahoma, it feels like that would have already happened. Like, what other option did he have that he's excited about? It feels like he's waiting to figure out whatever's going to happen with Kevin Steele, and then he'll respond accordingly. So if Josh Heupel were to keep Kevin Steele, he's going to go to Tennessee. If they don't, then wherever Kevin Steele lands, which Kevin Steele will get a job somewhere. He's a good coach. Then Brian will follow him, or their defensive line coach at Auburn, Rodney Garner. It could be just following him somewhere. So there's a lot of ways that can go. But, man, I know, don't get me wrong, OU's still working. There's still hope here. But it just feels like the momentum is starting to wane a little bit. Like when everything happened at Tennessee and Oklahoma just continued to press on Big Cat Bryant, you felt like, okay, maybe this can happen. But right now it feels like if not now, then when? I mean, at what point is it going to be clearer and better for him to jump?
Do the Sooners kind of push it out there and say, hey, we got to know? You think they've reached that point?
I don't think so, because I think they know what Big Cat Bryant is. He's a luxury. He's a guy that's going to come in. You've got a year to give him. You've got a scholarship free because of the 110 jump next year. So you can do all this, and it doesn't matter. So, like, they don't need him. He's not a guy you have to have. It's not like Wanye Morris that, like, you needed Wanye Morris. You needed Keyshawn Lawrence. You needed a running back that they may or may not have gotten in Eric Gray. So those all made sense. Like, you had to push him. Take your time, man. Do whatever you're going to do. Now the thing I do wonder is if you want to come in here and compete in the spring, you better get moving. Like, right. I mean, schools, classes started Monday. I know workout started today. So you need to get going if you're going to do it.
The way I understand it, the last day for like add and drop is next Friday, the 5th. So that makes me think that's the deadline for any of these, like Keyshawn Lawrence. He's still not in the database either. That if those guys are really going to contribute for the spring, they've got to be in by next Friday.
Yep.
Is Oklahoma if they get Eric Gray, I know you would love to have, Ramondre Stevenson and Ronnie Perkins back, but would you guys say coming out of the portal that they've done everything they needed to do to replace what they lost and be considered a college football playoff favorite next year?
I think they did everything they could have done. Like, to me, the hole that I see on this team is an elite back. I don't see it. I don't, and I think it's known I'm not the biggest Kennedy Brooks fan in the world, But I mean, Kennedy's a good player.
He's
don't
better.
Get me wrong,
he's better than if he had T.J. Pledger as your star.
Sure, absolutely, 100%. Now, but I mean, is he a clear step back from Ramondre Stevenson? Yeah, he is. So we'll have to see. I mean, but that again, the elite back that was going to fix OU's backfield. I don't know if that guy was in the portal, so I don't know what OU's supposed to do about that. They can't make a guy appear or make him exist. So I think they've done really, really well. I mean, they hit the marks that they could and had to hit. And, guys, what would you say? Lawrence and Morris are probably the two most talented guys that went in the portal, and they landed both of them? I mean, you've got a couple other guys at Tennessee, but they haven't gone anywhere. Sure. So
at least at those positions.
Although, Josh, I do have something to tell you that I haven't told you. And I know I didn't tell you because you don't want to hear this.
Oh, no.
I do believe that Kamar Wheaton will be back in the portal after talking to someone.
That just shouldn't shock me.
Wait, you mean he's going to decommit?
Well, yeah, I guess. Did he sign?
He hasn't signed
He
yet.
never signed. Okay, yeah.
No, because he committed
so
after signing.
Yeah, I mean, basically, he could be out on the market again, is what I'm being told.
Okay.
Oh, good. Good.
And
Josh just died a little inside.
Yep.
He's back.
Seriously. He's like the villain in a horror movie. Like, he won't die. Like, he just keeps coming back.
By the way, I'm pretty sure that even Alabama feels the way you do about this kid at this point because they have no effing clue either.
No, I mean, like I said, that when we were taking all that heat, I was like, guys, no one knows what Kamar Wheaton is thinking. I don't know that Kamar Wheaton knows what he's thinking. Like, he wakes up and every day is a new one. He is 10-second Tom from,
I mean, it's
40.
better. It's better that being that way than just flat out lying to people like Tristan Lee did.
Yeah. Oh, agreed.
I agree.
I got no problem with the way people were trying to make Kamar like a diva. A diva would be in the spotlight trying to get the recruiting attention. Kamar wanted nothing to do with any of it.
He doesn't even want to do anything with signing with someone.
Yeah, he doesn't want to talk to the coaches. Like, there's nothing diva about the way Kamar Wheaton's done it. It's just baffling to handle it the way he's handled. I mean, like, imagine trying to decide between two great companies that you might work for that are a huge part of your potential future, and you're like, I'm not going to go in for the interview. I'm just going to kind of shoot this thing blind. Like, okay. I mean, I guess, but I feel like you'd want more info.
I said this to someone the other day, I'll just say it was someone that coaches. I said, the thing that worries me about Kamar Wheaton is that you rarely run across guys that have a personality like his and who also don't have the tape that other players that are considered in his category have. Like, he doesn't have the tape to justify his ranking, really, although he does have the tape. I mean, like, it's just there's two huge unknowns about this kid that makes me worry about, like, if he was your only elite back in your program, like, I don't know that I'd feel comfortable that our running back position was taken care of. Like, I think there is bust potential there.
Oh, in a huge way. In a huge way. I mean,
and what I'm saying is the coach agreed 100%. Like, he's rarely seen kids like this.
I will say, if you were going to ask me, I mean, and I don't even mean like, Kamar Wheaton's first-round pick All-American. If you were going to ask me if he's an all-conference player or a guy that never gets more than 100 college carries, I'd probably bet on the second one. Like, and it's not that I don't like Kamar. It's not that I think he's a bad kid. He's just wired a little differently, and usually that stuff, like, I mean, and when I say wired differently, I don't mean bad. Like, I don't know if he doesn't care. I don't know what it is, but usually when you operate that differently from the status quo, it comes back to bite you. Something in there runs them up.
I just don't ever remember a time when we've sent Eddie to go film someone that highly recruited, and he came away going, didn't do shit. Like,
yep.
How often does that ever happen?
It was amazing. Like, it was almost dumbfounding how just, like, I think the longest run that we got was, I was telling one of the Rivals video guys, I was sending them some video from that game not too long ago, and it's just like, I mean, I think our longest run that he had was like 12 yards, and it was, he kind of dragged a couple guys, but it wasn't anything impressive. It was just crazy.
Yeah.
But you look at him, it's like, I don't know why he doesn't produce. And I mean, and then like the next week he put up like 240 and had 4 touchdowns.
He's
so
had games
I might be
where he's done it. Yeah.
I mean, like, it would be so much easier, like, if he played for Alito. I mean, because, every time we went and saw, what's-his-name play, it was like, we had, like, more highlights than we needed after 15 minutes of game film. I mean, like, but he doesn't play on a team like that.
No.
It's wild.
Well, and the other thing is that concerns you is he plays in a terrible district. Like, there shouldn't, if Eddie had, perfect example, Kerry, if he'd gone to see him against Alito, okay, you get it.
Jace
Alito's
McClellan,
really
by the way, I left out the name.
Yeah. If you see Kamara go against Alito and he doesn't get much, okay, fine. Alito's really, really good and his team's really, really not. Kamara's playing on a bad team against other bad teams.
Yeah.
Like it should
Forrest or somebody.
Yep.
Yeah.
Naaman Forrest. Yep.
And literally now maybe Naaman Forrest just has a secret that they'll have to pass on to Alabama opponents or wherever Kamara ends up, because I saw him against Naaman Forrest the year before, and I don't think I saw him clip a 12-yard run. I think I saw about 6 and 7, and I think he had 78 yards on the night or something like that on like 23 carries. Like, a guy with his speed, he should break a 30-yarder in a game like that just by accident. Like, it should just somebody got out of position, and he's so fast and so good, he made him pay for it, and he just never, ever did.
He just needs to have another dream, right? If there was a dream that told him to pick Bama, he's still waiting for that next dream to tell him where to go.
That felt vaguely snot. I mean, I'm telling you, Bob is getting a little.
I don't have any hard feelings toward him. I just thought that was a funny story.
We should take it to a dream analyst and see what they say.
Dream analyst?
Like a sleep analyst.
Like, if your teeth fall out, it means you're worried about money.
Sir, this man's dreaming of playing for Nick Saban. Well, he clearly has some need for he has some father issues he needs to work out.
Oh, so you're dreaming of oatmeal pies? Is that what's going on?
Oh, who doesn't dream of those?
I do like oatmeal pies.
That's weird out of context.
You know what? Oatmeal pies and oatmeal pies and root beer just load me up. I'm a happy man.
That's
you
even
had to
worse
just
out of context.
You had to just go and ruin it.
You don't like oatmeal pies?
I love oatmeal pies.
Okay.
I can't stand root beer.
Okay. Everybody's got their thing, man.
Do you guys know all that we've talked about in this podcast? I guarantee root beer gets heavy traffic on the corner of the conversation. Screw you, McQuestion. Root beer's the greatest thing ever existed.
I think root beer might be an Oklahoma thing. Is root beer an Oklahoma thing?
No.
No, it's a northern thing too.
Yep. It's really popular in Texas.
It's not a South thing. It's definitely a northern, more of a northern kind of thing.
Okay.
It's kind of like Mr. Pibb used to be a big thing up north. I bet.
I'll
Bob's
take a Mr. Pibb
ancestors.
over. Oh yeah.
I think the first time I ever saw Mr. Pibb in real life was in Yukon, Oklahoma, at like a dollar movie, and it like shook me forever.
I mean, like you saw like Mr. Pibb, like the sir, or like the drink.
Like the drink, like the first time I ever saw it served.
Okay. I was like, is there like a guy rolling around like in a Mr. Pibb? This is amazing. I'm
It was
interested.
like a fountain drink. It was like being served as a fountain out there.
Yeah, that's one of the weird things. Like, the only place you ever find it, really, I mean, you can find it in some convenience stores, but largely is movie theaters because they've got some sort of problem with Dr. Pepper. I don't know what that is.
I think in Texas it's called Pibb
deal.
Extra now. There's just not like Mr. Pibb. They call it like Pibb Extra, and it's got to be like it's like we're extreme.
Well, they've got to find a different. I mean, this state is Dr. Pepper crazy, so there has to be some differentiation. And I love Dr. Pepper.
You want to talk about
I'll take a Pibb any day.
soda? Let's talk about Dr. Pepper.
Oh no, sir, no.
No, I remember every time we'd go anywhere, you had to go get a Dr. Pepper. You're a cult member with Dr. Pepper.
I don't. I drink very little soda, and if I'm just drinking a straight soda, I'll drink a Sprite if I'm going to drink anything. But like I said, I drink literally gallons of water on a daily basis. I drink a lot of water. But if I'm going to get a Dr. Pepper, I'm a cherry Dr. Pepper guy. Like, I go to Sonic, get a cherry Dr. Pepper, and that's about the only time I usually do a Dr. Pepper anymore. But as a kid, literally, guys, I had a speech impediment because I drank so much damn Dr. Pepper. My little 7-year-old brain could not calm down the sugar inside of me. And they were like, so I had a speech impediment. And I go to a specialist. I'm talking to them. They're like, yeah, you just got to cut back on the Dr. Pepper, man. It's just too much. And they took, I went down from it's probably a 3 or 4 of them a day to 1, and all of a sudden my speech was fine, or as good as it was ever going to be.
Do you think that's
you were like the original Fuller Easy on the Pepsi without the peeing in the bed?
Well, yeah. There was some peeing in the bed too, but that stopped when I was 15 or so that it's fine. It's all good.
Do you think that's why your head's so big?
Maybe. There's got to be some damn explanation for this. There is,
you don't do
guys.
Kids today don't understand the fitted cap because I don't know. Does anybody sell fit? But that used to be the thing. You'd go into a store and they have. I know why it died out because it's so damn expensive to have that many hats of the same thing. But you would actually buy a fitted cap, like a 7. I think I was a 7 1/4. My brother was an 8. He has a ginormous head.
Yeah, I think I was 8 1/4, 8 1/2.
God. They wouldn't even have hats for you.
No, I hardly ever. I never could wear. That's why I hardly ever wear hats because I got so accustomed to it as a kid because I wanted fitted hats, but I never could have one. The only time I ever got to have hats was my Little League baseball teams.
What would you do for a helmet? You probably had to order off a high school helmet.
No, I don't remember ever having that problem, but I definitely had a big helmet. That's what's always funny, guys. Whenever anybody sees me do one of the stand-up interviews with the recruits, I've gotten the he's short standing next to Marvin Wilson and, all these other enormous guys and that stuff. I'm I'm not the tallest guy, but I'm not short by any stretch. But I never hear the head thing, which I'm I grew up with one of my best buddies would always make the "So I Married an Axe Murderer" jokes about he'd down and it's got its orbital system and the whole thing. And it was probably fair. It hardened me to it. I don't give a crap about laughing about the size of my head. But now, the other stuff, I'm where does that come from? That always surprises me because I remember the first time I was in front of the camera, I was they're going to talk about how big my head is. I guarantee it. And it's never once come up. I've got a 5 head. I have, and I've got a full head of hair, but I still have a 5 head because it's so damn big.
They don't have a fitted hat that fits me because my head's too small.
God, Bob.
Weird head
When my
situation.
nephew was 5 years old, he had a bigger head than me.
What?
My head, it's time. I can't wear. And when you get the elastic bands or whatever, I have to put them all the way to the end just to have a chance.
When you get the trucker hat, you have to put it on the very last little.
Yep, the very
dot.
last one. And sometimes that falls apart because there's only one thing that's holding it together.
Oh, that's amazing. So Bob doesn't want to stand next to me any more than I want to stand next to him because we both just accentuate each other's weaknesses.
If we could get you guys doing a side-by-side on television and we could do that big cat shot from above like he always does with Joe Buck, that would be fantastic.
You know what else we should get a trucker hat, and I'll fit it to where it fits on me, and I'll put it on Bob's head, and then he can put it where it puts on him, and I'll literally set it on top of my head like a crown, and we can rock that.
And that's how it would work.
Do you see what not having camps has done to us, everyone? This is where we're at now. We're just
give us the footballs.
Give us some damn camps, all right?
Trey Brown just had another nice play over in the Senior Bowl.
He's killing it today. I retweeted something from earlier. And
looked like Creed was having a good day. There's been good reviews for Ramondre Stevenson as well.
I got to tell you, I respect the hell.
Now?
Yeah.
Yesterday they kind of flipped to it every once in a while when they'd report on it, but they might be doing straight practices today. I need to turn on my TV.
Right.
But no,
is it on NFL Network? That's what I just did. I'm flipping it over trying to catch it.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I respect the hell out of Najee Harris for. He's just screw this. I'm playing. That's a good dude, man. I like that kid.
Credit. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say I loved his answer when one of the guys that covered him in high school when they interviewed him during I think it was during the semifinal lead up. That was pretty awesome. Najee Harris.
He was like, "Is that you, Craig?"
Yeah, that was funny.
What did he say? Don't front or something like that.
Yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, because the guy was being bashful.
Like he was giving him shit for acting like he didn't know who he was.
That was fantastic. Yeah. All right. Well, we got to talk about hoops. 2 huge wins in a row, and we can do some. You want to do recruiting first? Is there any recruiting we need to go over, Josh?
You might hit on just the stuff with Joe Jon real quick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, Jayden Rowe.
Yeah. I guess you have to start with the in-state offer. That's the first new in-state offer in a while now. I'm trying to think of the last one would have been. Was that Jacob Sexton?
Luke.
It's been a while.
Luke. Hey, Josh. Luke Bixby.
Oh God, yeah. Luke has like 2 weeks ago. You're right. Somebody said it might be Haas. I gotta get clarification from Luke on how the hell you say his last name. But anyway, yeah, Jayden Rowe, the DB from Tulsa Union. We've talked about him some. He was in the scoop a couple of weeks ago. This was a name that I had heard was really gaining momentum with OU. And I think it probably would have happened a few weeks ago, but I think Oklahoma, as we talked about, was, all the coaches, some went out for vacation, some, just doing some family time, getting to do stuff they didn't really get to do during the season. And I think you can tell, OU has just been throwing offers out over the last week or so. And I think they finally got to sit down as a staff, really start going over tape, seeing who they liked, who they didn't like. And Jayden Rowe was, 6'2", 6'3", 185, 190 pounds, big corner. This is exactly the kind of guy that Alex Grinch has been talking about bringing into the program. And, I've got some stuff in Woke, and I don't want to give it away because I posted it just a little while before we started the pod. But he's very excited about the OU offer. I think that's the easiest way to say it. I put in a forecast for him to OU. I don't know that it's going to be immediate. He may run this out for a while. I know Oklahoma State actually offered him since we've been recording. So there's been a lot of excitement about him. But, he's a guy that he's a 20 offer guy and is going to push. He'll push that top 4 that I think we've all assumed with Williams and Shetron and Sexton and Morion Horn. He's in that conversation. He's a very talented guy. And, I was joking with Eddie about this earlier in the week. I can't believe it's the first year we haven't seen a Union practice or game in 15 years. And, of course, this is the year, they have a guy that really kind of came out of, I don't want to say nowhere, but definitely was a guy that wasn't, Trey Brown as a sophomore, everybody knew, or any of those kind of guys. Like, we all knew about them very early on. But this is a guy that, as a sophomore, wasn't particularly well known and then just had a great junior season and just made himself a guy that, like I said, is going to be probably a 20 offer type.
All clear?
If we would have gone up there, it would have been just one of those weird days where he had to finish a class or he had to go to basketball or, something would have happened.
Yeah, I would say if he was a Jinx guy, I'd believe it. I think we've had more, and the staff at Jinx is always great to us. I don't want to make it sound like that at all. But Eddie,
it's just luck of the draw on the day that we decide to go up there.
It seems like Jinx, there's always some hiccup. Like there was that year that Stephen Parker, we had all 3 of us that one year after the state championship game waited for him for a while, and finally I was like, I'm screw it. I've got to drive home. I'm not doing this. And I think it was like 10-degree weather after that state championship game with Union. And then there was that year we had to wait for him to work out. Do you remember that, Eddie? Like he couldn't do the interview with us for a minute, and so we had to wait for like 20 or 30 minutes, and then it made us late getting over to Union. And Carson Meyer and Jeff Mead had just committed, so we were trying to get over there and do that thing. It feels like Jinx is always a headache.
It wouldn't be the last time that I waited on somebody to work out before I interviewed them after something.
Yes. I'm like, I need 5 minutes. Could we just knock that out real quick and then you guys can get on so I don't have to wait 40 minutes to get 5. You can give me 5 and then you can have your 40. So, whatever. It's about me and I don't understand why more people don't understand that. But also, Eddie brought up I kind of forgot. Eddie brought up the Joe Jon Finley stuff. Obviously made a couple of tight end offers. Got some conversation about them and Woke. Oscar Delp is a guy that he had offered at Ole Miss, a kid out of Georgia. I think the number 5 tight end in the country, if my memory's right. And is a talented guy. Like I said, he had mentioned, he was the first kid I hit up when OU, announced Finley's hiring, just to kind of get some perspective on him as a recruiter and what he thought, and really spoke highly. Really was hoping that Finley would reach out now that he was at Oklahoma. And, again, that was Finley's first offer. What was probably more interesting to me was the offer to Caden Helms, the tight end out of Nebraska. Finley hadn't offered him at Ole Miss, and to my knowledge, and from what Helms had told me, hadn't had any contact with him. Like, it was just out of the blue, OU offers him. So I don't know if it was a guy that he liked and Lane Kiffin didn't, or what the story is with that. But it was very interesting that, his second offer at the position went to a guy that he hadn't offered at Ole Miss. And talking to Helms, he seems very interested. I mean, so it'll be, like I said, Oklahoma hasn't gone into Nebraska and made an offer since 2015. And then in one day they made 2 because Oklahoma also offered a linebacker named Devin Jackson out of Omaha. So it's a busy day for Oklahoma and Nebraska. I don't really know what to say about that. That was kind of a weird little turn there.
Well, Josh, we're a week away from signing day. The excitement builds and builds. Is Austin going to be part of this class, the offensive tackle, or is that kind of faded away?
I think there's still a chance. I know, I think I said it last week. From everybody I hear, it's Stanford, Texas, Oklahoma, and, there's a few other schools kind of on the periphery. But that's the 3 that I hear most consistently with him. Now, like I said, I've had some people kind of say, oh, well, they got Wanye. I don't think Wanye and Austin Uke are connected at all. I don't think there's any connection there. I think they would love to have him. It's just going to be interesting because Texas offered him before Oklahoma did, but it was an entirely different staff Texas he has no relationship with, while Oklahoma has been recruiting him for a while, but there hasn't been the same energy for it, I guess you'd say, since that they've had since the offer. So it'll be really interesting to see. Obviously, Stanford has a great track record of offensive linemen, obviously great academics. He's from a private school, so you could see that making some sense for him. I don't know. I mean, he's not a guy that I've got a strong take on yet because it seems like he's actually pretty open. I always say, you can kind of know what a guy's going to do. I think he's one of those guys that actually is pretty legitimately open to the process, and we'll see what happens over the next week.
So you're saying there's a chance?
There's a chance. There's absolutely a chance.
All right. Well, big blue blood battle coming up this weekend. Oklahoma versus Alabama. Just not in basketball. They're not blue bloods. But the Texas win last night, I think all OU fans kind of have the same sentiment, Bob. I don't care that they only had 8 players. It was nice to beat a team with a 5 next to their name.
I mean, it's not like Kansas cared that Brady Manick and Jalen Hill couldn't play in the first game. I mean, that's just the nature of the season. And anytime you go on the road, get a top 5 win, you're going to take it. You don't care if that means you don't score a field goal in the final 4 minutes. You don't care as long as you were able to get the job done. And I think we all know right now, as great as they're looking, you sort of wonder, is there a role for Brady Manick? And that sounds just insane to say for, basically a 4-year starter and someone that's become synonymous with the program for years and years. But the way his body language is, the way his body has reacted since COVID, does he turn it around or can OU just sort of figure it out that he gets 10 to 15 minutes and you let these 4 guards just sort of go crazy?
Yeah, he had 8 minutes last night.
He didn't look good in them.
No,
and if he misses those first couple shots, he just gets so down on himself that it permeates to the rest of his game. And he's not that great at defense to begin with, but then if he's not making shots, it really shows up that his intensity or his awareness, his not assignment sound. And you look at the way Victor Iwuakor just, embraced last night. That guy was fired up after a couple, maybe a 2-3 week stretch where he didn't do much. That's what you need, that type of fire. If you're only going to play that limited amount of time, you got to come in and bring every ounce of energy you've got.
Was the Kansas game the first time that Harkless had started?
No. Ever since Manick and Hill were
Who's
out,
been in the
it's been
starting
that
lineup?
four. It's Harmon, Williams, Reeves, Harkless, and Queth. And that's my question for Lon tomorrow, is that when you've got so many guys, like you got Queth, you got Manick, you've got guys that are accustomed to being on the court in the final stretch, like the last 5 minutes. If this 4-guard lineup keeps working, I don't want to say massage egos, but how do you keep these guys mentally in it if they're not on the court going down the stretch? And that could even apply to like Alonzo Williams, because a lot of times it's Mo Gibson that ends up getting that final run.
Yeah.
I mean, right now they're all team first. They're all doing it the right way. But does it mentally start to wear on some of these guys that they're not part of the key components when they hit that 5-minute mark?
Well, what's amazing is, this was such a stretch, and I guess it's really like a 6-game stretch, but I think everybody pointed to the 4-game stretch of Kansas, Texas, Alabama, and then Baylor. And I think even the most optimistic person probably had to say, look, if they can just go 500, that's great. And right now they're batting 1,000 after 2 games.
Yeah, and that's why you hope that you don't feel, oh, you know what, we got these first 2. If Bama doesn't go our way, if Texas Tech on Monday doesn't go our way, we're going to be just fine. It's like, you got the first 2, just keep it coming. Obviously Crimson Tide, one of the biggest surprises in the entire college basketball season. But, the way that 4-guard lineup has brought the tenacity on defense, that doesn't feel like that goes away. Even a night like last night, Mo Gibson couldn't hit wide open threes, and it didn't affect anything else. As long as you keep playing with that effort, like Harkless diving on the court like a madman a couple times, you bring that intensity and that effort, that's going to carry over from every single game, even if your shot isn't falling.
That kind of shit just trickles down into the roster too, and that's like, yep. I think that they do have a pretty good chemistry / culture down there right now, and obviously it's paying off on the court and the way that they're playing. Ben sent me this note earlier this morning. It's insane from Stats by Stats, the big, I think, analytical, in-depth analyst stuff. But when OU plays number 9 Alabama on Saturday, Oklahoma will become the first team in the Stats Inc. database that goes back to 1996 to face 6 top 10 teams in 1 calendar month. And that's including March. So it's just incredible, like the type of teams that they've been playing here over the last couple of weeks. And then, obviously the 5 of the next 6 are against teams inside the top 11.
Yeah. You get that one breather next Saturday at home, Iowa State. Feel like and that's the other thing. You can't win some of these and then fall apart against like a Kansas State or Iowa State when you go on the road. You've got to maintain taking care of your business there. But after that, then it's going to be Baylor, and it's going to be Texas, and it's at West Virginia. So it's another brutal 3-game stretch once you get past this one. But I think, it's a question people love to ask, but the Big 12, this is what they know. It's maybe to another level where instead of like 5 teams in the top 20, it's like 5 in the top 11 or 12 or whatever. But these guys understand that this is what they signed up for. This is what they want. They want these opportunities to play the best teams every single night.
It certainly helps. It's a bunch of guys that have played a lot of basketball. And when you think about the NCAA tournament, and it's going to be weird this year, but like seriously, like when I think of a team that can make some type of run, granted, it's all about matchups when you get there, but they've played a lot of basketball and they are deep at the guard position. And those are the types of teams that, especially in, kind of the modern day of college basketball, that are able to put together a run. And if this team could get to the second weekend of the NCAA tournament, I think that is more than what people expected going into the season. I think that would be a great ceiling for them to reach.
For sure. And then you just don't know what's going to happen next year. You got those 4 seniors, like an all elect to come back. You've got CJ Nolan, Bijan Cortez coming in. And I think, you almost start to wonder, do you know how to recruit right now if you don't know about what Kirk Weth and Brady Manick are doing? Is it even worth trying to bring in a big guy for the 2021 class if those guys are thinking about coming back? We've talked so much about football roster management, but it definitely pertains basketball too, because the only one I think for sure, I think Austin Reeves will leave. I think he's done what he needed to do at the point guard spot to show that he was more than just a shooter with the Shockers, and that it's mission accomplished for what he needed to do in Norman, and he can move on. But Lonnis Williams, Queth, Manick, I think the door's open as to, or they've got options as to what they want to do heading into next season.
I also think it's kind of a good thing that, like West Virginia beats Texas Tech the other night. It keeps Oklahoma's quality wins up there.
Yep. I agree.
And you kind of want the guys at the top to kind of eat each other. I think that's good for everybody, because all these people get the tournament. Like, here's my other question: if Oklahoma can beat Alabama this weekend, are they like in a 5 seed range all of a sudden?
Jerry Palm had him.
Yeah.
6. He had him on the 6 seed yesterday, and that was before they won. So it's just crazy. Like, I don't think that it's Baylor, and I still think Texas at full strength is pretty damn good.
Yeah, they are.
And then probably still everybody else. Maybe OU's at a little bit of that top tier of the third right now, the way that they're playing. But
I think Kansas is below that tier.
Just a difference between them and Baylor.
I think Kansas is below that third tier just a little bit. They're just. I've never seen a Kansas team that loses so much when they go to their bench like they do now.
Yeah, there's just not a whole lot there.
But yeah, I think Tech, Oklahoma, West Virginia, Kansas. And Oklahoma State. Their COVID thing is kind of taking them out of the spotlight a little bit, but they were playing well before that all hit, and not having Cade Cunningham. And that Baylor game.
And they still won in Ames by 20 without Cade.
Yeah.
That's what you got to do. Take care of business. There's a clear separation. I don't know if TCU's on it because they've had to pause so much, and they've played Kansas and Baylor and OU twice. So they've had some games where they were supposed to lose. But Iowa State and Kansas State, you almost have to go at least 3-1, maybe 4-0 to keep your head afloat when you start beating up against each other with all those other top teams.
All right. I think
so. We're picking them. We're all picking them to go to the Final Four, right?
Absolutely. It's only a 2-hour drive from my parents.
Eddie's been bucking for a Final Four trip for a few years now.
Well, the last time that I went, it was a record historically bad breaking ass whooping.
The worst loss ever in Final Four.
Not to mention obstructed view. That was terrible seating.
Oh, they will never get worse than it's just the seating arrangement at the Final Four. Don't get me started. They need to move that shit back into basketball arenas, but I know that that's never going to happen.
Yeah.
Eddie, if memory serves me, what was worse about that trip, the game itself or the trip itself?
Probably the game. I don't remember anything worse. I don't think I remember anything bad about the trip.
Okay. Did you travel alone to that?
I did go alone.
Okay. I had a thought that maybe you had traveled with someone that was fairly miserable to travel with.
Oh no, I was alone.
Oh yeah.
Certain Fox Sports personality.
No, I was alone on that one.
Okay. Yep.
I think there was a makeup show for all the clown stuff that was going on that weekend.
Burt Reynolds has joined the podcast again. All right. Any other order of business, as I always say before we get out of here, you guys wanted to bring up? Senior Bowl, they're showing some practice footage now, just a little bit here and there.
Oh, there we go.
Great.
Offensive lineman.
Well, I'm out of here. I'll see you guys later.
Josh is going to beat off. All right.
Yep.
thank you for everybody for listening. Thanks to Dead Soxy. Appreciate you. Go support deadsoxy.com. Use that promo code Sooner for 30% off your order. Or is it Boomer? Damn it.
Boomer.
It's Boomer. I can't even remember after an hour. All right. Thanks for everybody for listening, and we'll be back again next week, maybe with some more Tennessee players on the OU roster. Most likely that's going to happen. So thanks for listening. We'll see you guys next week on another edition of the Unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com.